You are going to hear a teacher talking to their class about Robert Burns and Burns suppers. But first, read the questions on the worksheet. If you haven't got a copy of the worksheet, you can get it from our website at teflresourcesnows.co.uk. You have 1 minute to read the questions, starting from now. Now we shall begin. Okay, so before the break, we were looking at some of Robert Burns's poems and this whole idea of Burns Night and the Burns Supper. Let's have a look at some of the questions you've sent me on your phones. Lawrence says he's found out that the first Burns Supper was celebrated on the 29th of January and asks why it is now celebrated on the 25th of January. Good question. Actually, the first Burns Supper was held in 1801 on the 21st of July, which was the 5th anniversary of Burns's death. Then the following year, 1802, it was held on the 29th of January, the Burns Club thinking that was Burns's birthday. In 1803, they discovered that they were mistaken and that Burns was born on the 25th of January, and Burns Supper has been held on that date ever since. Kelly asks if the haggis must be made of meat. Are you a veggie then, Kelly? Well, the traditional haggis is made with meat, the heart, liver and lungs of a sheep. We call this pluck. That's P-L-U-C-K. And a lot of oatmeal, onion and spices. However, I'm pleased to say that today you can get vegetarian haggises. In fact, I've got one for my wife this year. It may be good news for some of you that you can get non-alcoholic whiskey too, so everyone can join in these days. Right, now, John asks why we talk about Scots dialect rather than Scots accent or Scots language. Well, there is a Scots language called Gaelic. That's G-A-E-L-I-C. Gaelic has its own vocabulary and grammar. It is a completely different language to English and one that Robert Burns didn't speak. After Scotland and England became one country in 1707, the use of Gaelic declined markedly. Scots dialect is essentially English. It uses the same grammar and a lot of the same words. Sometimes the different spellings reflect the way a word is said in Scotland, such as owld for old or lang for long, and you might call that accent, how a language sounds when spoken in a particular area. However, there are also words and phrases that are particular to Scotland. For example, Scots dialect uses bairn, that's B-A-I-R-N, for baby, and lang may you long reek, meaning may you live long and stay well. Interestingly, Burns avoided dialect in his more academic work in the same way that you should avoid slang in your essays, Tim. Okay, one last question from Lisa. She asks why we describe Burns as a pioneer of the Romantic movement, as surely he wrote more than love poems. Well, Burns did write a lot of poetry about love. He also had a number of romantic partners, with at least 2 women bearing his children. But we call Burns a romantic because his poetry emphasized emotion, individualism, as well as the glorification of all the past and nature. Romanticism, which was most popular in the first half of the 19th century, was a reaction against the massive changes being brought about by the Industrial Revolution. One of the most significant figures of the Romantic movement, the poet Lord Byron, grew up in Scotland and was almost certainly influenced by Burns. Which brings us to next week. Could you read the first 5 cantos of Don Juan by Lord Byron by next Tuesday's lesson? Be ready to let me know what you think of his writing. Is it better or is it worse than Burns?